Hi everyone, and thanks to everyone who helped put us over 50 subscribers. I will do something fun, I promise, as soon as my house gets put back in order, which will hopefully be this week, because this is the third week of doing this flooring, and everything is dirty, and I think my housekeeper's mad at me, because it's like, yeah, can you come later in the week? No? Okay. That's fine, I will just continue living in ick, and sleeping as we can. Anyway, hopefully you won't hear any exciting background noise, because I am working from home, and people are also having fun on the computer, and fortunately this one's kind of short because this is going to be about 10 pages, so not as long as we're used to doing, but the folks at OpenAI, starting with Padward Han and everybody else, worked on this thing called GDPval, as in Gross Domestic Product, evaluating AI model performance on real-world economically valuable tasks. So this is a benchmark evaluating AI model capabilities on real-world economically valuable tasks. It covers the majority of U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics work activities for 44 occupations across the top 9 sectors, contributing to U.S. gross domestic product. Tasks constructed from representative work of industry professionals with an average of 14 years experience. We find frontier model performance is improving roughly linearly over time. Current best frontier models are approaching industry experts in deliverable quality. Analyze the potential for frontier models when paired with human oversight to perform GDPval tasks cheaper and faster than unaided experts. We also demonstrate that the increased reasoning effort, increased task context, and increased scaffolding improves model performance on GDPval. And finally, we open source a gold subset of 220 tasks and provide a public automated grading service at evals.openai.com to facilitate future research and understanding of real-world model capabilities. So keep in mind, these are the people that are selling you the AI, so this is what they're working on. So there's a growing debate about how increasingly capable AI models could affect the labor market, whether by automating specific tasks, replacing entire occupations, or creating entirely new kinds of work. Current approaches to measure the economic impact of AI focus on indicators such as adoption rates, usage patterns, and gross domestic product growth attributed to AI. However, historical evidence from technological shifts such as electricity, airplanes, and computers shows that the transition from invention to economy-wide permeation often takes years or even decades, requiring regulatory, cultural, and procedural changes. Therefore, while informative when available, these methods are lagging indicators of AI impacts. We consider an alternate method for understanding the potential economic impacts of AI, directly measuring AI model capabilities. AI capability evaluations can provide clear, more directly attributable evidence about model abilities, allowing us to assess economic relevance ahead of widespread adoption. Our paper introduces the first version of GDPval, a benchmark evaluating AI model performance on real-world economically valuable tasks. GDPval covers the top 9 sectors contributing to U.S. gross domestic product, with at least 30 tasks per occupation in the full set and 5 tasks per occupation in the gold subset across 44 occupations. Each task is constructed based on actual work product created by an expert professional. Given the complexity of automatically grading these tasks, our primary evaluation metric is head-to-head human expert comparison. We also provide an experimental automated grader service for the 220 open source gold subset of tasks. Future GDPval iterations will incorporate greater breadth, realism, interactivity, and contextual nuance. The initial version of GDPval offers several advantages over existing AI model evaluations. And here's figure 1, which I'll read to you in a sec. Realism, unlike AI benchmarks and the style of an academic test that focus on reasoning difficulty. Tests are based on the actual work product from industry experts, validated through multiple rounds of review, and tied to time and costs required for completion. Representative breadth, unlike AI evaluations, focus on specific domains like software engineering. The GDPval full set covers 1320 tasks across 44 occupations, sourced to cover the majority of work activities tracked by ONET for each occupation. This top-down approach allows representativeness of tasks across occupations. We also build on production AI usage analyses to cover areas where model adoption is still emerging. Computer use and multimodality. Tasks would require manipulating a variety of formats such as CAD design files, photos, video, audio, social media posts, diagrams, slide decks, spreadsheets, and customer support conversations. Each task also requires parsing through up to 17 reference files in the gold subset and 38 in the full set. Subjectivity. In addition to correctness, expert graders often consider subjective factors such as structure, style, format, aesthetics, and relevance. Our dataset also therefore serves as a helpful testbed to assess automated grader performance. No upper limit. Unlike metrics that can saturate quickly, our primary metric is a win rate, which allows for continuous evaluation. Currently, we compare model outputs against a human expert baseline, but we could replace our baseline with increasingly strong models over time and keep evaluating. Long horizon difficulty. Tasks require an average of 7 hours of work per an expert professional to complete. On the high end, tasks meant up to multiple weeks of work. So some of the tasks that they are talking about is in this little thing here. So we have manufacturing engineer design 3D model of cable reel stand for the assembly line. Financial and investment analyst create competitor landscape for last mile delivery. Registered nurse assess skin lesion images and create consultation report. Film and video editor create high energy intro reel with video and audio. Customer service email response to dissatisfied customer requesting a return. Concierge create a week-long luxury Bahamas itinerary for a family of 4. Order clerk audit pricing inconsistencies in purchase orders. Real estate agent design sales brochure for a new DC property. And recreation worker optimize table layout for a spring vendor fair. So those are your example tasks from the full set. So task creation. We first identify the sectors that contribute most to U.S. gross domestic product and then source tasks drawn from the highest earning knowledge work occupations within those sectors. So prioritizing occupations. GDPval covers tasks of 9 sectors and 44 occupations that collectively earn $3 trillion annually. We detail below the methodology behind our initial version. To choose the initial occupations, we selected sectors that contribute over 5% to U.S. GDP as determined by Q2 2024 value added by industry as a percentage of gross domestic product. These 9 sectors are shown in Table 1. Selected 5 occupations within each sector that contribute most to total wages and compensation are predominantly digital. We took a task-based approach to determining if an occupation should be classified as predominantly digital. Specifically, we identified all tasks for an occupation from ONET, a database of occupational data, definitions, and tasks from the U.S. Department of Labor. Similar to Elondu et al., we prompted GPT-40 or 4.0, excuse me, to classify each task as digital or non-digital, and then classify the overall occupation as digital if at least 60% of its component tasks were digital. To calculate this percentage, we weighted tasks by relevance, importance, and frequency scores for each task reported in the ONET task ratings. Excuse me. We further validated the representativeness for our digital task measure by benchmarking against the Asimoglu and Otul task content framework. The correlations we observed, digital tasks increasing with non-routine cognitive content and decreasing with routine and manual content, demonstrate alignment with established economical measures of work as per Appendix A 7.1, which we are not diving into. The appendices are very long. For wage and occupation data, we used ONET's May 2024 National Employment and Wage Estimates to calculate total wages for 831 occupations, further detailed in Appendix A7. So here are some of the real-world work from 44 occupations. So real estate, rental, and leasing. So concierges, real estate sales agents, real estate brokers, counter rental clerks, property real estate community association managers, let's see, government, rec workers, compliance officers, first line supervisors, the police and detectives, administrative service managers, and child, family, and school social workers. Manufacturing, mechanical engineers, industrial engineers, buyers and purchasing agents, shipping, receiving, inventory clerks, first line supervisors, production and operating workers. And professional scientific and technical services, including software developers, lawyers, accountants and auditors, computer and information system managers, and project management specialists. That kind of fit in there. Healthcare and social assistants, registered nurses, nurse practitioners, medical health services managers, first-line supervisors of office and administrative support workers, medical secretaries, administrative assistants. Under finance and insurance, we have customer service representatives, financial investment analysts, financial managers, personal financial advisors, securities, commodities, financial services, sales agents. In retail trade, we have pharmacists. Okay, I would assume that would be closer to healthcare, but alright. General ops managers, private detectives, and investigators. Not quite well, I guess, if you investigate thefts. First line supervisors of retail sales workers, wholesale trade, sales managers, order clerks, sales reps, wholesale manufacturing, technical scientific products, sales reps, wholesale manufacturing, except technical and scientific products. Okay, there's 2 different kinds. First line supervisor of non-retail sales workers, and then under information, producers, directors, film and video editors, news analysts, reporters, and journalists, and audio and video technicians. I am not quite sure where the heck we would fit in here. I guess apparently we just ignore education. I don't know. Maybe it comes under government, possibly. Just looking for librarians, just looking for where we'd be. So, expert recruitment. We recruit expert industry professionals, create realistic tasks based on their professional work experience. Expert required to have a minimum of 4 years professional experience in their occupation and a strong resume with a demonstrated history of professional recognition, promotion, and management responsibilities. The average expert had 14 years of experience. We further required experts to pass a video interview, a background check, a training, and a quiz to participate in the project. Experts are well compensated for their time and experience. Some of prior employers of industry experts include Accenture, Aetna, Apple, AXA Advisors, Bank of America, Barclays, BBC News, Boeing, Budget Rent-A-Car, Capital One, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Citigroup, Condé Nast, CVS Pharmacy, U.S. Department of Defense, Disney, Douglas Elliman, E-Trade, Federal Trade Commission, General Electric, Goldman Sachs, Google, Guggenheim Partners, HBO, IBM, JP Morgan Chase, Johnson & Johnson, Kmart, Kirkland and Ellis LLP, LinkedIn, Lockheed Martin, Macy's, Massachusetts General Hospital, Meta, Microsoft, Morgan Stanley, National Park Service, NFL Network, Oracle, Paul Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton and Garrison LLP, Prudential, PwC, Raytheon, Sally Beauty, Samsung, SAP, Scientific American, Sotheby's, Telegraph Media Group, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Time, Twilio, U.S. Department of Justice, United States Air Force, United States Postal Service, Walgreens, Wells Fargo, White & Case LLP, and Whole Foods. Task creation. Each GDPval task consists of two primary components, a request, often with reference files, and a deliverable, the work product. Experts classify the request against ONET occupational tasks for their occupation to ensure broad and representative coverage across tasks. More details on task characteristics can be found in Appendix A4, which we're not going to look at. To assess task quality, we ask occupational experts to rate each task on its difficulty, representativeness, time to complete, and overall quality against real-world standards for their occupation. Each task's dollar value is estimated by multiplying the average estimated completion time by median hourly wages for the corresponding occupation from OEWS data. So the task control pipeline. Fun. First stage reviews, general task guidance. Primary, task created by an expert in a specific occupation. Task receives general guidance and feedback, and the original task author completes the revisions. This is not iterative. And that goes to the second stage of reviews with occupation-specific guidance. So occupational expert gives occupation-specific guidance and feedback. The original task author completes the revisions. The occupational expert gives more feedback and sends on to the next reviewer. That is iterative. And then there's this like sandbox thing on the bottom here that goes up into the second stage reviews, which includes tasks created by an expert in a specific occupation, tasks received general guidance and feedback, original task author completes the revisions, and the reviewer gives general task guidance or signs off. And then again, this has this little thing back here where it points to the occupational experts. So the first task an expert creates is put through a sandbox for iterative first round of reviews. Okay, so that's what the sandbox is, so we can test our greatness in reviewing. Third stage of reviews is general task guidance, so the final reviewer gives general task guidance or signs off, and the original task author completes any revisions. And then there's a final sign off, and the task is through the review process. Yay! All 1320 tests in the full GDPval set went through an iterative review pipeline involving both automated model-based screening and multiple stages of human expert review. Each task received an average of 5 human reviews with a minimum of 3 human reviews. Across all stages of review, experts provide detailed comments and tasks were iteratively revised before subsequent reviews to enhance quality and representativeness as detailed in Appendix A5. Human expert grading and automated grading. To grade the 220 open source gold subset, we conducted blinded expert pairwise comparisons, where experts in the relevant occupation were presented with requests and reference files and asked to rank 2 or more unlabeled work deliverables. On average, grading each comparison for the gold subset took over an hour. Additional occupational experts were sourced to grade human model deliverables. The experts provided detailed justification for their choices and rankings, which enabled us to compute our headline win rates for various models compared to the human expert completion. So we have more diagrams. So prompt and reference files, human gold deliverable, GPT-5 sample response, and then goes into pairwise grading. Pick which is better, considering both subjective and objective criteria. And then on this side, this is the pairwise grading setup on this other side, agreement with humans. So the automated grader versus the interhuman, so this is human to human. So GDPval uses pairwise expert comparisons for grading. We also create an experimental automated grader. Find the automated graders within 5% of human inter-rater agreement on GDPval gold subset. So the machine is coming close to the humans in terms of agreement. So, for the gold subset, we trained an experimental grading model to perform pairwise comparisons in the style of industry professional experts. Although limited, the automated grader is faster and cheaper than expert grading and achieves 66% agreement with human expert graders, only 5% below human expert inter-rating agreement of 71%. Further detail is in Appendix A6. I'm laughing a little bit at this, not because that, people shouldn't be graded or anything. It's just the grading thing brought back a job I had, a very terrible job I had when I was in between a lot of jobs. And I ended up scoring, I think it was the Connecticut math exam over in Ypsilanti, and they had like the worst servers over there that were not fast, and I think I ended up quitting because I got kind of infuriated. So I was taken from like the three question part that we were scoring, and then I was moved down to like the two question because I was being too mean. I was being too mean to the kids because you had to like get like all three parts of this one question to get it totally full correct, as opposed to partial correct. And yeah, I was the mean one, so I got moved down to simpler questions. But the thing that drove me nuts about that, like working there, was that they had, like I said, such bad servers, and they're like, we're getting behind in production, so we're gonna add more computers onto what is already a very slow pipeline because we're in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and the connection wasn't great back then. Uh, it was such the weirdest job to work though because like sometimes you think library work is slow. Yeah, this was literally like you'd get a question, you click the button to score, and then you'd like wait up to 5 minutes for the next one to appear. So it was a lot of bring in your books to read, although everyone's chattering. So yeah, get some crossword puzzles. Anyway, yeah, human graders do exist and human scorers do exist. And those of you who have ever taken a standardized test and wonder who the heck grades those, yes, there are people, mostly out of work people with bachelor's degrees, sitting away in a little tiny, bleak little building, scoring your standardized tests. Yes, those are scored by humans, in case you ever wondered. I know, I did some. It was interesting. Anyway, experiments and results, headline results, GDP pairwise expert preferences, woohoo! On human pairwise comparisons, models are beginning to approach parity with industry experts on the GDPval gold subset, woohoo! Oh, OpenAI frontier model performance over time, wins and ties, wins only. So performance of OpenAI frontier models roughly increase linearly over time on the GDPval gold subset. We evaluated GPT-4o, 04 Mini, o3, GPT-5, Quad Opus 4.1, Gemini 2.5 Pro, and Grok 4 using blind pairwise comparisons by professional industry experts. Quad Opus 4.1 was the best performing model in the GDPval Gold subset, excelling in particular on aesthetics such as document formatting and slide layout, while GPT-5 excelled in particular on accuracy, such as carefully following instructions, performing correct calculations as per Figure 8. This distinction is also shown in Appendix A23, where GPT-5 performs better on pure text, which is more of a measure of pure textual intelligence, but Claude performs better on file types like PDF, XSLT, and PowerPoint, demonstrating better visual and aesthetic abilities. In Figure 5 on the GDPval Gold subset, 47.6% of deliverables by Quad Opus 4.1 were graded as better than wins or as good as ties the human deliverable. Model deliverables outperformed or matched human expert deliverables in just over half the tasks. So speed and cost comparison. We analyzed several scenarios to understand potential speed and cost savings ratio of frontier models on the GDPval gold subset task in Appendix A24, and scenarios analyzed incorporating frontier AI models into expert workflows show the potential to save time and money relative to unaided experts. Figure 7 summarizes expected savings under a try using the model, and if it is still unsatisfactory, fix it yourself setup. Here an expert human samples from a model, reviews outputs, and if unsatisfactory, resamples and repeats. If no satisfactory output is obtained, the human completes the task themselves. Under this setup, as well as other setups, such as directly using model outputs, trying the model just once before doing the work directly, model systems can potentially save the expert time and money. Oh, okay. And well, side note here, we aim to keep comparisons as blind as possible, but model samples may still have been identifiable due to stylistic differences. OpenAI outputs often use M dashes, Claude outputs infrequently adopted first-person phrasing, and Grok occasionally referred to itself as Grok. Although file names were scrubbed of model identifiers to preserve sample identity, we did not alter style or content, so experts may still have been able to infer the model origins. We sample Claude via the UI to enable the maximum GDPval relevant features. For example, for Claude, we wanted to evaluate its upgraded file creation and analysis feature. For the OpenAI models, we enabled the web search tool and the code interpreter tool with background sampling. We also pre-installed several libraries not available in the base image. See Appendix A64. For plot shown, we sampled each model 3 times for each prompt, and then 3 different human graders grade each sample, yielding 9 comparisons per prompt per model across 220 tasks. We also caveat occupations and task types covered by text tend to be different than those that involve multimodal skills. We are not able to obtain cost estimates for Claude, Gemini, or Grok. Alright, another figure 7. Speed and cost improvements from AI assistants to human experts. In the scenarios we analyzed, models show the potential to save time and money by coupling AI assistants with human expert oversight. I still like that one study that says it slows you down by like 30%. Here we show speed and cost savings from a try n times and a still unsatisfactory fix-it-yourself approach as detailed in Appendix 8.2.4. So speed improvement. Unassisted is obviously 1-to-1, so 4 Mini does it a little better, O3 does it a lot better, and GPT-5, of course this is OpenAI stuff, so they would obviously think that does a lot better. And then there's 4.0. Alright, model strengths and weaknesses. We built a clustering pipeline to analyze why expert preferred or rejected GPT-5 High, Claude Opus 4.1, Gemini 2.5 Pro, and Grok 4 deliverables as shown in Figure 8. Claude, Grok, and Gemini most often lost due to instruction following failures, while GPT-5 High lost mainly from formatting errors and had the fewest instruction following issues. Gemini and Grok frequently promised but failed to provide deliverables, ignored reference data, or used the wrong format. GPT-5 and Grok showed the fewest accuracy errors, although all models sometimes hallucinate data or miscalculated. Well, see, that's reassuring. You may as well do it yourself with the flawed human. Increasing reasoning effect and scaffolding. To understand the impact of reasoning effect on model performance, we ran GDPval on the O3 and GPT-5 models at low, medium, and high reasoning effort. We found additional reasoning effort improved performance. We were also interested in measuring how easily we could improve model capabilities with prompts. For example, many of the observed GPT-5 failure modes were due to obvious formatting errors. We created a prompt which encouraged GPT-5 to rigorously check deliverables for correctness, check layouts by rendering files as images, to avoid non-standard Unicode characters, and avoid excess verbosity. The prompt applies generally to multimodal economic tasks and is not overfit to any given question. See Appendix A3 for details. We also improved agent scaffolding by enabling GET requests in the container and performing best event sampling with n=4 and GPT-5 judge. Prompting fully eliminated black square artifacts from GPT-5 responses, which previously affected over half of the generated PDFs, and reduced egregious formatting errors in PowerPoint files from 86 to 64%. This can be partially attributed to a sharp increase in agents using their multimodal capabilities to inspect deliverables. Prompting also improved human preference win rates by 5 percentage points in Figure 9b. These easy performance gains suggest there are paths to agent improvement on GDPval tasks by training or scaffolding to be more thorough and take full advantage of their multimodal capabilities. Samples were clustered using expert justifications, labels were mutually exclusive, and left blank when the rationale was unclear. So prevalence of label, instruction following, formatting, accuracy. So across models, experts most often prefer the human deliverable because models fail to fully follow instructions on the GDPval tasks. So it's not quite ready for prime time yet. Sorry, OpenAI. This was the reasoning effort experiment and the prompt tuning experiment. Figure 9, model performance improves predictability with increasing reasoning effort. So again, you think more on it, you get better answers. Prompt tuning and scaffolding improvements also increase GPT-5 performance. Alright, almost to the end of this. Open sourcing. We open source the prompts and reference files in our 220 task gold subset. While human expert comparison is still our recommended method of grading, we make an experimental automated grader publicly available at evals.openai.com. Please note that the tasks in the open source set have been scrubbed of information that can be used to identify the expert who wrote the task. We also note that as a result of limitations with our automated grader, we don't provide automated grading results for all tasks in the gold subset. Further disclaimers about the open source gold subset in Appendix A13. Limitations of this study. Dataset size. GDPval full set currently consists of only 44 occupations and 30 total tasks per occupation. It is therefore a limited initial cut of knowledge work tasks, not a comprehensive evaluation of all possible occupation tasks. Yeah, you're missing librarians. We are expanding the dataset size. Focuses on self-contained knowledge work, and tasks in the initial version of GDPval are oriented around knowledge work that can be performed on a computer, particularly around digital deliverables. Manual labor and physical tasks are not included in the current version, more of a tasks that involve extensive tacit knowledge, access to personally identifiable information, use of proprietary software tools, okay, the databases, or communication between individuals are out of scope for the current evaluation. We aim to build on this in future versions of the evaluation. Tasks are precisely specified and one-shot, not interactive. For GDPval, we provide the full context of the task in the prompt, but in real life, it often takes effort to figure out the full context of a task, such as a reference interview, and understand what to work on. We are working on improvements to GDPval that involve more interactivity and contextual realism. In the meantime, in the experiment in the under contextualized GDPval section, Appendix A2.6 demonstrates how model performance degrades with less context. Grader performance. Our current automated grader has a number of limitations compared to human expert graders. More details about the automated grader are available in Appendix 8.6.2. Cost. Constructing and running our evaluation is expensive, particularly with industry expert graders. For this reason, we make an automated grader proxy available, but do not consider it as a full substitute for industry expert graders. So in conclusion, in GDPval, we contribute the following. A data set. We create a new evaluation data set, GDPval, measuring real-world, economically valuable tasks. Capacity benchmarking. We analyze quality, speed, and cost of deliverables across human industry experts and frontier AI models. Experiments. We test our results shift with differing reasoning effort, prompting, scaffolding, and context. Open sourcing. We open source 220 tests as part of our gold subset, which includes prompts and reference files. Automated grader. We release an automated grader to improve accessibility of grading at evals.openai.com. And we hope this work contributes to the science of tracking model progress. We have better data to assess the social impacts of AI models. So, what do you guys think? Are they coming for your job? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, because I think they may just be. Well, at this point, though, they're not close. I don't know, combined with that robot that Elon's trying to make cool. Yeah, we'll see what happens. The world could all crumble to a shadow these days, right? Am I right? Alright. Hope you enjoyed this one. It hopefully was a little bit shorter than my average.